Are you listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other platform where you can leave a rate or review? Do you like what we're doing? If the answer to all of that is yes, please consider quickly giving us a 5-star rate. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice review, we greatly appreciate that as well. Okay, let's do this. Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Mackelly.
And I'm Batgirl, or you can call me Jenny.
We'll go with Jenny. Thank you for joining us for episode 290 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. I got the R.R. in there that Simon usually forgets. Today we'll be discussing chapter 18 of A Dance with Dragons, that is Tyrion 5.
As always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, unless you have a BMAC sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Then we will spoil things for you. Regardless, hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarize what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, indulge in a little pedantry, probably not in this episode, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondences. Be sure to check out our show notes. They provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note about the chapter. Jenny, hello. It is good to see you. It's good to have you here on the show. We've missed you.
It's good to be back.
Simon, he did warn everybody last week that he was not going to be here if Oldham won. And
yeah, that's why I made the Batgirl reference, because he was throwing up the bat signal.
Oh, yes, that's right. Maybe we should call you Batgirl then.
That's okay. Jenny will do.
All right. Yes, well, how have things been?
Good. I'm wondering what Simon's conditioned chocolate is. What do you think that is? It says we're free to speculate. What is that, do you think?
Simon's conditioned chocolate. You're right. I didn't even notice in our witty banter section.
Is that some kind of training that his wife is using for Simon to retrain him, do you think? Or
yes. Either she's training him to bring her chocolates, or she's training him with chocolate.
Yes, one of the two.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we'll just have to find out next week, I guess, when he returns.
I guess so.
So you have mentioned that you have a story. You've told Simon and I think both of us, right?
I got on
a couple weeks ago.
Our shared message and said that I had something to tell. So
yes. So I'm all ears,
all right,
as are our millions of other friends listening.
Millions! Wow, our viewership has gone up. That's awesome.
I'm hoping that this will be listened to in the future when we have millions.
When we have millions, that also works. All right. So this story just amused me because it's so ridiculous. I live in a small town in Oklahoma, a very small town, and so this visual that I'm going to give you all was just something that I was like, how does this show up in my tiny little town? My husband and I were outside together, and we heard some strange, loud music, which loud music here is not strange, but the kind of music they were playing was strange. And I think that was on purpose because they were trying to draw attention to their vehicle. It stopped for a very long time on our corner. And we looked over, and there were 4 teenagers in this convertible car, and they had a giant blow-up certain male appendage.
Oh, goodness.
Sticking out of the middle of the back seat. And when I say giant, it was probably 4 feet tall and at least 1.5 feet in diameter.
Oh, wow, that's giant. Yeah.
Yes. And they looked so pleased and happy with themselves. They were looking around, making sure that everybody saw them. They were just thrilled to death to be driving around with this giant blow-up in their car.
Sounds like something teenage boys would look around and be proud of, displaying for people's shock and consternation.
Yes. We just laughed at them, and I think they were a little disappointed.
No, they were hoping for more.
For shock, yes. But we just laughed. So.
Oh wow! Well, yeah, that You don't expect to see that
you don't
rolling into your intersection.
And, it kind of occurred to me that I was wondering where would you even order such a thing, but I don't want to know. I really don't want to know. And I also would not be brave enough to look that up, because who knows what you'll find on Google. So
yeah, you don't want to type that into Amazon, or it's going to start showing you,
exactly.
The algorithm's going to be like, oh, yes. I have some ideas for you.
And then my children will get on there and they'll be like, what's this?
Why is this showing up as something I might be interested in?
Exactly.
Oh, that is good. That was worth the wait. You gave us no inklings of what to expect.
Yes, it's more fun to just, pop it in there.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Well, I don't have anything fun and exciting like that to talk about. Molly did get her wisdom teeth pulled last Thursday. So this is Tuesday. So yeah, it's been 5 or 6 days now, and that's been fun.
I bet it has been. Hopefully they gave her some nice medication.
They did, but Stacy watched that TV show. Well, I watched it with her on Hulu about the the opioid epidemic and all that, and so she's been terrified of giving her anything stronger than just Tylenol. So there has been a few times when Molly has said, "Please, just give me one, just give me one something stronger."
Yes.
So, but I recorded her. She asked me to. I wouldn't have otherwise. I recorded her.
With the anesthesia?
Yes. And I didn't get this part, but, the lady, whoever she was wheeling Molly out on a wheelchair down the hallway toward me. And Molly is kind of jibber-jabbering to the lady. And she looks forward and sees me and goes, "There's my dad!" and starts crying. And then it just went from there.
It's funny that she asked you to record it, because most people are
embarrassed. I think this day and age, kids just they just expect to be recorded pretty much everything they do. So
that's true.
She hasn't watched it yet, though, because she can't. Probably by this point she could laugh, but for the first few days she couldn't laugh because her mouth was so sore, and she was afraid of getting dry socket, which could lead to infection. So I tried to show her, and she had me turn it off because she couldn't laugh at it yet. So. Still hasn't seen it. And now she's just so miserable and wants it all to be over with. She probably wouldn't find any of it funny. Because,
probably needs to wait a few more days.
Yeah. Too soon. Anyway, that's all. Nothing fun as what you, the story you shared, but it has definitely been affecting our lives lately.
I'm sure it has been.
Well, as Simon would say, let's get down to business, shall we?
How do we last leave Tyrion Lannister?
Well, how did we? So the last we saw of Tyrion, he was sailing down the Rhoyne with his new companions. He lusted after Septa Lemore, joked with Duck, and studied with young Griff and Haldon, and got on Griff's nerves. He won secrets from Haldon through a hard-fought Syvas game. Finally, he saw an enormous turtle dubbed the Old Man of the Rhoyne, which he mysteriously commented was surely present to witness the birth of a king. Maybe we'll find out what that means in this chapter. Jenny, why don't we give them a summary of this one?
All right. Well, I wrote the summary, so as usual, I titled this chapter, and the title of it is "It's a Lovely Night for a Swim."
Maybe not a lovely location for one, though.
An eerie fog surrounds the companions aboard the Shy Maid as they continue to make their way down the Rhoyne, hampering visibility and making the occupants uneasy. Tyrion tries to make his standard quips, but Ysilla warns him not to make it light. This is no common fog. Tyrion has to agree. It seems unnatural.
As they float past a ruined palace, once known as the Palace of Love, Tyrion begins to reminisce about Tysha, and he thinks of Tywin's death. As they near the Bridge of Dream, home to stone men, Griff gives instructions on how to handle them, and then orders young Griff below deck with Septa Lemore. Young Griff begins to balk and does not comply. He complains if Hugor is staying, he should be allowed to as well. Tyrion reveals his knowledge of young Griff's identity, and that's why he should go below as ordered. They pass under the bridge with no trouble from the Stonemen.
Tyrion announces his Lannister heritage, and next reveals he has figured out who Griff is as well. Not the feigned father, but Lord John Connington of Griffin's Roost, dear friend to Prince Rhaegar and former Hand of the King. Griff gives Tyrion a warning, but the boat glides past some familiar scenery, and the Bridge of Dream reappears. As they pass underneath, they are attacked by the Stonemen. 2 are dealt with quickly, but Tyrion must intervene to save young Griff from a third. After grappling the Stone Man, he is dragged down into the water.
For a nice little swim. Aye.
Yes. Because it was a lovely night, but you're right, not a good location.
Right. No, might want to wait a little further, because Halden said it's going to be a pleasure cruise once we get past the Sorrows, so,
Exactly.
But, Tyrion, he's clearly nervous and uneasy because we're in his head. We get his thoughts. But he just can't help with his snide quips and disparaging comments.
I don't think he'll ever stop making those.
Yeah, it's surely a defense mechanism. But for his shipmates, it's got to be tiring and unwelcome.
Most definitely.
Yeah. He thinks to himself, though, that Ysilla is not wrong about the unnatural nature of the fog. He just can't admit it out loud. He has to make some sort of snide quip outward, even though he's thinking in his head, yeah, you're not wrong about this.
So do you think it was some kind of sorcery, like a magical fog?
Well, when we get to the double dipping with the Bridge of Dream,
we'll get into that. Okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I don't know what to make of a lot of the unnaturalness of all this chapter.
Well, I was really struck by the atmosphere that Martin created here with this chapter. I think it's very vivid. Like, it really takes you there, and you can feel the fog and see what's going on. It's almost like a horror story. Like when I did Bran 1 with Simon, it's very eerie to read.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we bring you in for, apparently. The horror story chapters. Yes, you're absolutely right. It did feel that way. And when they passed through the bridge the first time, unmolested, you thought, oh, the horror was just the anticipation of something bad happening.
Yeah, because you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Oh, nothing happened.
Oh, nothing happened. They just passed through.
Right.
And then they come back again. But we'll get to all that. But yeah, you're right. He's really good at making little mini horror stories,
Yes.
This is definitely one of them. Howden, he refused to even breathe the air in the Sorrows. He was saying that Garen's curse is all about, basically referring to the fog. And I thought, could Grayscale become airborne?
That's a great question, because I don't think we're given an answer to that. Like, I don't know if we know if it's airborne or not.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghost of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. No, I don't think we do get an answer. I can't imagine that it would be.
I don't know how it could be, unless, again, magical.
Right, because if it was, every ship that passed through the Sorrows would be exposed to the possibility of Grayscale, whether Stonemen,
that may just
bothered
be
them or not.
His superstition, maybe.
Yes, which is ironic that he is the Maester, or the half-Maester, anyway, that, he would be the one succumbing to this superstition.
Maybe that's why he's the half-maester.
That's right. He couldn't get through the Citadel because he kept getting bogged down in superstitions.
He's paranoid about everything.
Right. Now, Tyrion, he vaguely discusses that, or thinks in his head, that there's a difference between grayscale and gray death or gray plague. It goes by both. And there's two types of grayscale. There's the non-fatal version and the more rare fatal version. The non-fatal version is when someone suffering from grayscale, skin becomes stiff and calcified and cracked, and it's usually found in children. Think Shireen Baratheon.
Right.
And it's usually found in cold, damp climates. And that made me think that you would expect to see more wildlings and northerners with grayscale. And we haven't heard that it's not an issue, but Jon, he spent a lot of time around a lot of wildlings, and his, visual description never mentioned seeing anyone with grayscale. Well, but just saying
cold alone could just be, like a lower chilly temperature. If it's too cold, wouldn't that kill
maybe
bacteria or whatever?
Maybe it's too
cold up there.
Yeah, up there. That could be. Yeah.
And it's
maybe
not
it's
really,
like that clammy cold.
It's not damp, I wouldn't think. North of the wall. I wouldn't think it would be damp. I think it's too cold to be damp.
It might be. Yeah, that could be true. Yeah. Of course, the fact that it's most prevalent in children would explain why you don't see it at the Night's Watch.
That could be.
But yeah.
Or maybe closer to the water, closer to the Bay of Seals or whatever, maybe?
Yeah. Maybe the Eastwatch, maybe the wildlings over by Eastwatch deal with it more. But yeah. I guess, northerners as well. It's not as cold in the north as it is north of the wall. I don't know. I guess the only Westerosi that I know that suffers from grayscale is Shireen Baratheon.
Yeah, we never really see anybody else. We hear about it a lot, but we don't actually see anybody else. Yes, so there's a fatal variety, and I guess you're immune to the fatal string if you have the non-fatal type of grayscale. Right. So
that's what Tyrion tells us.
Yeah, if you have the fatal kind, it starts in an extremity with tingling or discolored flesh, so like maybe your fingers and your toes. Right. And it progresses up your body, and then eventually you turn mad, like the Stonemen.
Right, yep. The Stonemen here are pretty good examples of what the fatal variety looks like. And so that's grayscale. But then there's gray death, also called the gray plague. And this is different because of how quickly it spreads. And rather than individual cases like you might see with grayscale, like Shireen Baratheon or these individual Stonemen, gray plague can sweep through a population. And the best example we have of someone who succumbed to gray plague is Shy Maid, Illyrio's second wife. She died when the rats made it off of that ship that had the gray plague in it, and it wiped out a good percentage of Pentos, I think.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the difference. I wanted to make it clear because he kind of talks about it like we already know what he's talking about.
That is the most information we've gotten on grayscale, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. We got a little bit about Gray Plague from Illyrio when he was telling Tyrion about his wife Sarah, but yeah, this is the most details I think we've gotten about it. Because they don't bring it up much about Shireen, I don't think.
No, they don't.
I don't recall anyway.
Right.
Although Halden refers to the fog as Garen's curse, and Ysilla tells of Garen getting his revenge on his captors from Valeria and Volantis by calling down a flood on Rhoyne, drowning his captors. And I did a background on Garen in the Arianne chapter where Eris was killed because Arianne Martell had a friend named Garen, and it came up about Garen the Great.
Oh, that's right, I remember.
Yeah. So, just a quick reminder, Garen was a prince in Rhoyne during the Second Spice War in Essos, and he had won a few victories against Valyria, earning him the moniker The Great, which is how he came up in the Arion chapter. But he was captured when his host attacked Volantis, carried in a cage back to Rhoyne, where his people were going to be enslaved and his city destroyed. But while he was there, before any action could happen, I believe, at least, could be completed, he called down the curse, and the mother Rhoyne flooded, the fog rolled in, and the Valyrians who didn't die in the flood began to die of grayscale, and all that happened there eventually caused Nymeria to sail away in her 10,000 ships. That was the kind of the catalyst, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting story.
Yeah.
And do you think that he was some kind of sorcerer or something? If he called down a curse and that actually happened?
Right. It's one of those things like,
Was it coincidence?
Right. Or was it some other event that happened 1,000 years ago that had nothing to do with, Garen or anything like that? It was some naturally occurring phenomenon.
Right, and it just happened to coincide with his curse.
Yes, or people thought back and thought, you know what, this is Garen's curse.
It is his curse.
Yes, this here is Garen's curse. Right.
So they pass a boat on the Rhoyne, and it's a boat called the Kingfisher, which really isn't important, but they get some news from the boat, and they mention that war is coming from Volantis, and the elephant and the tiger are working together, which means that the triarchs, who are usually against each other, are not against each other anymore. Well, two of them are not.
Right.
That makes Griff unhappy because Triarch Nyersos has been paid off by Illyrio, but apparently he voted for war anyway, even though he took the money.
Right.
So.
Yeah, the voice, the disembodied voice coming from the Kingfisher said that the war they'll be engaged in the war by year's end. So, that's not good for Dany. That's bad news.
That is bad news. I wonder if she's planning on going to Volantis.
Yeah, right. It complicates a lot of things, because the news, the plan from Illyrio was that the Golden Company was going to meet Griff and company in Volantis and wait for Dany there. But if Volantis is engaged with war with Dany, that could compromise the situation.
Also, Tyrion mentions that they were lucky to make it through Dagger Lake without any incidents because it's infested with pirates. So that could have been a fun chapter, but we didn't get any of that.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yeah. I expected after the last chapter, they talked of dangers of pirates lurking throughout the lake, which is actually part of the Rhoyne. That's how they end up in a lake.
Right.
It's a part that swells of the Rhoyne. I expected there to be some sort of incident of note regarding pirates in Dagger Lake, but no. Tyrion says they sailed through in the night untouched. So, I don't know. I guess George Martin wanted to get to the whole Bridge of Dream thing. It was like, you know what? We're going to skip Dagger Lake. We're just going to get to the Bridge of Dream. But, about Volantis entering the war. One thing, the man from the Kingfisher says the elephants showing stripes, and that's in reference to the political parties of Volantis.
Yes.
There's, the 3 triarchs of Volantis. The elephants seek peace and trade, and tigers look to rule through war. We learned that when I think I did a background on that when Quentin Martell was in.
I think you did.
Volantis.
Yeah.
I think. So, Naesos. The triarch that Griff is upset because Illyrio was supposed to have already bought and paid for. He and Malaquo are going hand in hand. Naesos is an elephant, and Malaquo is a tiger. There's a third triarch who has not been mentioned. His name is Donaphos, and he's also an elephant. So he and Naesos, you'd think, would be on the same side, but his allegiance was not mentioned.
They would have voted against war, and it would have overrode the tiger.
Right.
Yeah.
You would think, but maybe someone else is paying Naeso more than Illyrio, who, according to Griff, has bought him 8 times over. So, yeah, it would be bad news for Dany.
It will be,
because I know Volantis isn't what it once was before the Century of Blood, but they're still a big, rather formidable city. So, she doesn't need them coming in on the war on the other side.
We could skip all that if she doesn't go to Volantis.
Yes. As long as she stays behind her walls, unless they sail out in force against her.
That's true. We don't know how big their navy is, so.
Right.
All right, they passed this palace called the Ruined Palace of... It used to be the Ruined Palace of Love, but now what did they call it? It was of Sorrow, right?
Yeah,
the Palace
I think
of
so.
Sorrow.
Yeah.
And it makes Tyrion think of Tysha, and then he thinks of Jaime's betrayal. And it just kind of makes you feel bad for him all over again.
Yeah. He thinks to himself he never questioned Jaime's word that Tysha was hired to play the role that he was told she was playing.
Right.
And it's odd that since Jaime revealed this news to him that he lied, that Tyrion has never considered that Jaime was forced by Tywin to tell this lie. Tyrion knows their father. If he wanted Jaime to lie, Jaime was going to lie. He might be his big, strong brother, yes, but Jaime Lannister, especially at that age, still bows to Tywin's will.
Yes. It also makes him think of killing his father. The sound the crossbolt made and...
Right.
I think that's something that even if I don't know, do you think he regrets it? Even if he does regret it, that's not a sound he's going to forget.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether regret or not, but I think it does weigh heavily on him that, he killed his father, even if his father, we know what his father was and how his father treated him. I think it's still affecting him heavily.
That affects him, and then the guilt of his own participation with the Tysha, the way it ended and everything. And he needs someone to focus his anger or shame on, so I guess that's maybe Jaime?
Right. I agree, yeah. I think he feels unlovable. The idea that she truly loved him, and he threw away that love based on the story that Jaime told him. All this, the guilt over how the role he played with the gang rape of Tysha, the fact that she actually may have loved him and he threw it away and he's never felt love since or before, really.
Yeah.
And that the betrayal from his brother and the fact that he ultimately killed his father. I think all of that is swirling around in one big ball in his head and causing him a lot of issues.
I have to say, I think I've said it before on the Discord server, I'm not a fan of Dark Tyrion, but you kind of understand how he got to this place.
Oh, yeah, right. You put all that stuff together, you're going to be in a pretty dark place.
Yeah.
But you do see some reasons of why Jaime was so special to Tyrion. He tells us through his thoughts that Jaime brought him toys, gave him his first pony and taught him how to ride it, and was generally kind and loving to him where nobody else. Maybe his uncles a little bit when they were around, but for the most part, nobody else was treating him
really
so
his only close
nicely.
Family member who was kind to him. Yeah.
Right. And all of that is kind of hard to connect with the man who pushed a boy out of a window and tried to kill Brienne and all the other terrible things that Jaime's done. So it's easier to connect that the Jaime since he's lost his hand with that Jaime from Tyrion's youth than it is the Jaime before he lost his hand, who was just kind of a terrible person all around.
That's true. All right, so we get a revelation about Griff and young Griff. And
finally,
first of all, this seems like kind of a weird spot to just suddenly go into all this, don't you think?
Yes, I do. It was like you're dealing with these stone men coming and going, and you're having this out right now.
You're floating down this river. You can't see a darn thing. Is this unnatural fog? There's, a stone man warning up ahead, and he's like, "Hey, let's have this little chat right now."
Right now, yes, it does feel very out of place, but.
But here it is, so we're going to talk about it.
Yes, for our sake, it's good to finally have it out in the open, and we don't have to pretend we don't know why young Griff seems special.
Yes.
And you mentioned, I think you mentioned young Griff and Griff's revelation.
Right.
We also get Tyrion's revelation to them about who he is.
Right, but didn't Griff know anyway?
Yes, yes, Griff did know. Yes, he read that letter from Illyrio.
Yeah.
But like I said, we finally discover why everything has seemed so Griff-centric on this boat, and even before on the boat, because Illyrio, he seemed very fond of the boy when Tyrion was leaving him. He was hoping to see the boy, and he seemed very sad when he wasn't able to. So it's basically been since that chapter that we started to think there's something special or unique going on with this boy.
Yeah, it's definitely something going on with the people on this boat.
Yeah, but it does seem everyone in the group knew, including young Griff.
Yes.
Because he looks to his father and says he knows who I am.
Yes. That was exciting to read the first time.
Yes. Now, he masks his purple eyes with that blue hair. We learn in this chapter that the blue hair that he says he colors his hair blue in memory of his late mother, but it makes his purple eyes seem more bluish. And last chapter, Tyrion dropped a little bit of a clue when he had this line. I think it was a thought, not something he said out loud, that his eyes, speaking of young Griff's eyes, run from blue to black to purple, depending on the light.
Yes.
So I think that was a little bit of foreshadowing of what was coming here.
I think so. I'm going to say Simon thinks he's Aegon and he's sticking to it, while I am in the Fagon camp. I think he's fake. I don't think it is baby Aegon. I'm not discounting anybody else's thoughts on that situation because we don't have any confirmation. So anybody else could also be correct, but I think he's Fagon.
Yes, I'm with you. I am. I think he could be of Targaryen
Absolutely,
or some sort of descent.
I do. I think that as well, but I don't think he is who they are saying he is.
Yes. And now that we know that he is said to be Fagon, as he's known by the by the fandom, but Aegon Targaryen, the son of Prince Rhaegar, who was killed during the sack of King's Landing, we can openly discuss things like, could he be the son of Illyrio and Sarah Mopatis? Could Sarah Mopatis have actually been of Targaryen descent in some variety?
I think that is possible, yes. I think that's one of the bigger theories that I think is quite possible.
And there's other theories that he is Varys' son, and that Varys is conveniently shaves his head because he is a Targaryen.
Yes.
And is not actually a eunuch, or at least wasn't before he fathered this son.
I don't know if I believe that theory as much as the Illyrio Sarah one, but I mean, anything's possible. We don't have any answers yet, so.
Yes, I agree with you though. If I had to put money down on a what the actual answer was, it would be on the he is a Mopatis by birth. So
yes,
but the ramifications of this news that young Griff is actually Aegon Targaryen are quite huge. If he's truly Aegon, that means he has a better claim, not just than Dany, but he had a better claim than Viserys.
Yes. Yeah, he would be the eldest born son of the heir.
Right. And that's the way the path goes, is the son of the heir beats the siblings of the heir in the pecking order. So, but if you recall that conversation between Illyrio and Varys in the dungeon in that Arya chapter so long ago in A Game of Thrones, it was very clear they were talking about a Targaryen reemergence, and until now, all evidence pointed toward them referring to Viserys and Daenerys. But it seems that this plan was in place well before that conversation came up. So maybe the plan was actually focused on Aegon.
I think Aegon was the original plan, yeah. And they were not expecting Dany to pop up like she did and become a queen and have 3 dragons. I don't think they anticipated any of that.
Yes, I agree. I'm with you on that. But speaking of Dany, how's she going to take the news? She considers herself the ruling queen.
I'm going to throw out there that I don't think she's going to take it very well.
Yeah, even though, do you think she'll be conflicted a bit, excited to learn she has a close living family member who then also happens to be older and have a better claim?
I think she will probably find the anger first. I'm not sure. It could be possible she's excited about it, absolutely. But if he makes it to Westeros before Dany, I don't think she's going to be very happy about that.
No, that would be a problem. Yes, you're right. I mean, even if they were to rule like Jaehaerys and Alysanne Targaryen, Alysanne was still Jaehaerys' queen. Jaehaerys was the king and the ruler.
He was the monarch. She was his wife and a queen, but not the ruling monarch, I guess I should say.
Right. And although they ruled hand in hand, some ways like Aegon the Conqueror and his sister wives, he was still the top of the pyramid there.
Yes, he was.
Speaking of Dany, top of the pyramid.
Top of the pyramid. I like it.
So, but do you think, could he ride a dragon? Could he be one of the 3 heads of the dragons? Or heads of the dragon, singular.
Also possible. You have to kind of wonder how he'd get his hands on one if she's not very happy with him.
Right.
But it could be possible.
Maybe if she can learn how to control the dragons, which she's failing at thus far, if she can figure out how to control the dragons, maybe it will be worth it to her for him to learn to ride one dragon, and the 2 of them together can defeat her enemies, and maybe that trade-off would be worth her sharing the Iron Throne. I as I say it, I'm not sure I believe it.
Well, hopefully she does eventually get control of at least one of them. But I guess if she learns one, she can learn them all.
Yes. If she could figure out how to control, say, Drogon, then you would think she would be able to teach Aegon how to ride, how to control one of the other 2, and then 2 of the heads of the dragons, I keep saying dragons plural, 2 of the heads of the dragon would be in place, and we don't know, there's still no clues on who the 3rd might be, is there? Other than
the TV show gave
in the TV
their version of it, but who knows if that's right or not.
Right, yeah. But this does, as we're discussing it, that is the prophecy. The dragon has 3 heads. Aegon could be one of those 3. So
could be.
That's a new If it's true, and that's the question, right?
Right.
Is this true? We saw Theon faked Bran and Rickon's death using the bodies of other boys.
That's
and it'd
true.
be easier to do with an infant who,
especially
looks like a baby.
If you think maybe like Rhaegar and Elia were in on it, and they had him, as soon as the city was under attack, they had him spirited away and replaced. Maybe they had a contingency plan for that.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just like to throw things out there like that. Who knows?
Yeah, I had not thought of that. It is a very convenient story for Illyrio and Varys. They certainly have more influence over him than they do over Dany. So,
I still go with he's Fagon, so I don't really buy into that theory that they were in on it, but I have seen that out there.
So their plan is to meet up with Daenerys, right? So that would lead you to believe that the thought is to have Aegon marry Daenerys. And if that's their plan, were they always planning to have Viserys die? Did they subtly convince him to go to Vaes Dothrak, knowing he would likely die along the way?
Okay, but if they were planning on marrying Dany to Fagon, why did they have her marry Khal Drogo? Did they think that he would die as well?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that fact.
He was a pretty well-known horse lord. He was one of the bigger ones. Yeah,
huge Khalasar. Yeah, we don't know the details yet. We're just speculating at this point.
All right. So, do you think I would assume if the crew knew young Griff's identity, they knew John Connington's as well. Do you think even like Ysilla and Yandry knew who they are? Do they care? Are they just employed to help with the boat?
Yeah, I don't know about Ysilla and Yandry. That's a good question. I do think that this was more revelatory to us than to the story. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure the others probably, if they knew who young Griff was, it's likely they knew who Griff was.
So do you think that they knew who all the other people are? Like the questions surrounding Lemore? Like, do you think that they know her true identity?
Oh, yeah. I would say Griff might. I don't know that Duck and Halden necessarily would know if she has, there is rumors and speculation in the fandom about who she might be. I don't think we don't have anything to go off of yet, right?
No, I don't think we do.
But if she does have some sort of specialness to her as far as, who she is, I wouldn't be surprised if Duck and Halden, at least Duck, might not know that kind of detail.
Right.
But we did get some clues as to who Griff was, because when Tyrion met him, he thought about Griff's hair and the fact that he has blue hair but red roots and eyebrows, and John Connington was a ginger. So, there was a little bit of a clue there. And like Dario points out, Griff doesn't exactly require a cipher to decode.
Well, you know how I am not fond of pedantry, but I would almost say that pedantry if I didn't think it wasn't just Griff's character of who he is. I guess a character decision to name himself Griff. It was the only thing he could come up with that he was happy with. I don't know. That's
right.
It's not a very good name for the witness protection program, I would have to say.
No, it's not. No, it's really not. And, Tyrion says that good thing Varys is on our side because he would see through that so easily. And I thought to myself, I agree 100%.
Yes.
Why didn't Varys suggest a less than on the nose alias like Griff,
Right. How about Larry or Phil, I mean, come on.
There's a lot of other options to go with. But finally, like we said, Tyrion reveals who he is, that he is Tyrion of House Lannister.
Yes.
Do you think there's any concern of them knowing? I mean, they're already keeping young Griff's secret.
Well, I think with Griff being in charge and he has already allowed him to be on the boat, that maybe the others would think, well, Griff knows who he is and let him be here, so it must be okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're keeping the bigger secret, which is who young Griff is.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't go around spreading, shouting his name, Tyrion, in the streets of Volantis to the ears of strangers. I think that could be dangerous, but I just don't see it being a major concern, this group here.
Well, it may not be a major concern, really, but also, with Cersei putting her reward out there, how many noseless dwarves are there in Westeros?
Right. Can't be many.
Can't be many. So,
no.
I mean, that would draw a little bit of attention to you, I would think.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying I wouldn't go shouting the name Tyrion in mixed company.
Well, even just seeing him, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, if they pull into a port or whatever, it'd be like, you need to stay below deck because everybody sees you. They're going to be like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Or make him wear something across his face,
some kind of scarf or something. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, because, I mean, the reward is huge, and we've been hearing that it's spreading all the way to Essos.
Yes, they're bringing in dwarves from Essos, so, I mean...
Yeah.
Do you think that the leathery wings that he heard was a bat? I've seen theories that people think it's Drogon.
Well, yeah, no, I thought it was a bat. That was my assumption. Drogon doesn't make sense because I think the bat was described as having pale wings.
Well, but if it was foggy... Would you be able to tell?
True. That's true. It could. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying I buy into this theory, but I did see a theory where somebody was saying that if you draw a straight line between Essos and the Iron Islands, that Euron would have been blowing that dragon horn about the same time that they were going down the Rhoyne.
Oh, wow.
And he may have been flying towards Westeros and then went back or something. It's just a theory I've seen online, and I'm not necessarily saying I buy into it, but I have seen it.
Yeah, that's a wild theory. I'd never heard of that one. I don't think so. That's a bit too much, a bridge too far.
Well, they did do it in the TV show as well. They had him see Drogon.
Oh, yeah. Really? I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Huh. I took it, because there wasn't a bigger deal made out of it, I took it as the creature in question wasn't big enough to cause anybody to wonder what exactly it was that just flew over their head.
Right. But why mention it?
I think it
just
goes back to the horror.
Atmosphere?
Yeah, it goes back to that horror element that you mentioned at the beginning. It's creepy and scary and sets that tone that George Martin is so good at setting.
All right, tinfoil hat away. Griff says the stone men are witless, but they have torches lit. That doesn't say witless to me. And also one of them speaks a word. Roared is how it was described, a word. Now, I don't know if that means he understood what he was saying at that point, if they are out of their minds, but he still remembered language.
Yes, and I noticed both of those things as well, and I thought that seems a little bit more organized than you would think of witless. And I could certainly understand being driven mad if the sorrows are always the way they are today, when they were traveling through. I could understand that driving you mad, whether you were being driven mad through grayscale or not.
Right.
That type of environment would be enough to do the trick, I think.
But if you think if they were witless, that they wouldn't know to light torches.
Right. I agree. And I actually had, there's a line, I think it's Halden, that says that mercy ships are sent up from Volantis like 3 times a year to bring food to the stone men here. Yes. And that oftentimes the ships bring more mouths than food. And I thought I would love an offshoot story about what it is like here in the Sorrows for the average stone man. Gets off the boat, and what is life like for them here in the Sorrows? Do they have any sort of like community environment. I mean, these people have to live day by day. They have to eat, they have to sleep, they have to find shelter.
Right.
So there has to be some level, and they're not driven mad until the grayscale reaches their face and then starts to affect their brain. So there would be time where they're just living in this ruin, and that felt like I was kind of daydreaming thinking about it. I was getting fascinated. I was like, I should write a fan fiction piece on life in
You should.
Rhoyne.
I'd read it.
Maybe I'll ask ChatGPT, hey, can you write me up a story about what life will be like there?
Right.
They mentioned that the current shrouded lord is a corsair from the Basilisk Isles or something, and I thought, is there an election? How does one become the shrouded lord? You know, how long is their term until they die? Who
is there
how
voting?
do they elect a new one?
Is there like a ballot check, yes or no? I mean,
right? Are they hanging chads? I mean, what is happening here? Oh, so. Yes, I did think about that as well. The torches, the roared word, and it was a word that Tyrion couldn't understand, but that doesn't mean that it was just gibberish. It was likely just in a language.
Yeah, that he didn't recognize.
Right. So now we get to the double
big
running
question of the evening. What do you think? Do you think it was magic?
Oh gosh.
Do you think some kind of sorcery was going on?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Well, I've spent the past few days thinking about this. And I don't know. I mean, it's pretty rich for me to sit here and say, in a story with dragons and reanimated dead and years-long seasons, for me to say that I find it far-fetched that the river could change directions. But, okay, let's say that happened. They were north, heading south. They passed the Bridge of Dream, and then the river changes directions, and now it's flowing south to north, and they then pass the bridge again.
Well, I don't know if people are necessarily saying the river changed directions. I've seen like time travel type of...
Oh, gosh.
Something like that mentioned, and then the other sorcery angle was just that they got sucked around again. I don't know.
I could see. So the fog was unnatural. Everybody felt that the fog was unnatural.
Let's talk about the practical reasons it could be.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do that, because I've seen a lot of people say it could have just been the current of the river, or like an eddy or a whirlpool. Well, they couldn't tell in the fog that they were being, turned around, because they weren't.
They were also arguing.
Yes, they weren't really paying attention. And so that kind of ties in with another one I've seen where Yandry was paying attention to what was going on in the conversation and was not steering as well as he could have, in the fog.
Right. Yes.
So
Ysilla was at the tiller, right? That's the thing that controls the ship in the back.
Right.
Maybe she was leaning on it in one direction while she was listening to the story.
Oh, girl, listen to this rumor.
And they just went around in a big circle. Yeah, I mean, I had thought about that as well. And here, they seem to go a bit out and come back because they see this. The chapter kind of starts right at the beginning of it. We see the giant hand pointing out of the water.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we see it again, but when he's coming back around, and they had to go a decent way out to turn around and come back to see that, and then all the other things that they passed, all the Palace of Sorrows items that he pointed out. And we got a little bit of clues that it was coming because they pass objects that they saw the first time on the bridge before they get to the bridge.
Right.
The second time, but everything is on the other side of the boat. The hand was on the starboard side the first time, and on the larboard side the second time. it seems like it did a 180. The boat did a 180 for everything to be on the opposite side. So I get so confused, because how do they get stuck in a whirlpool and see the same items they already saw if they're already south of the bridge?
Well, if the whirlpool was just right after the Bridge of Dream and it turned them around and they weren't really paying attention until they passed the fingers again.
So you're saying they just got to the edge of the bridge, got through it, turned back around, didn't realize they were going back under it again, started heading north again. Then they got turned around and started heading south again.
Right. That's just one of the explanations I've seen people try for, like, a scientific explanation instead of a magical explanation.
Yes.
I've also seen a Tyrion is hallucinating explanation.
That was my thought as well, that the fog, the unnatural fog, caused them to hallucinate that they went through the bridge already. For some reason, they also hallucinated that everything was on the starboard side of the boat before it was on the larboard side of the boat.
Right.
That's a weird detail. There's so many things swirling around. I can't quite put my finger on what I think could have happened.
Well, everybody on Discord, get on there and tell us what you think happened. Why did they pass this bridge twice? Give us your opinion.
Yes, please do. Let's discuss it.
Well, here is something else that kind of ties into that. Originally, we were going to put this into spoilers, but we wanted everybody to hear it. So we're going to throw this in here. During this chapter, George had originally planned for Tyrion to meet the Shrouded Lord. And he decided, he kept revising the scene until it became a dream. And he actually mentioned this on his blog in 2007. So almost 20 years ago, everyone. Think about that. Almost 20 years ago. He mentioned this on his, not a blog, and why he decided not to have Tyrion meet the Shrouded Lord, and he ended up changing it instead. And I'm going to read this little passage, because I just thought it was really cool. All right, so this is what he said on his Not a blog in 2007. Someday I will die, and I hope you're right, and it's 30 years from now, and when that happens, maybe my heirs will decide to publish a book of fragments and deleted chapters, and you'll get to read about Tyrion's meeting with the Shrouded Lord. It's a swell, spooky, evocative chapter, but you won't read it in dance. It took me down a road I decided I did not want to travel, so I went back and ripped it out. So unless I change my mind, it's going the way of the draft of The Lord of the Rings, where Tolkien has Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin reach a prancing pony and meet a weather-beaten old hobbit named Trotter. So in other words, all of that got changed in both of those editions.
Hit the cutting room floor.
Yep.
But that is really cool. I would love to read the outtake where he meets the Shrouded Lord. Yes. That would be really neat.
That would be really good.
Yeah. But maybe somewhere in there would have been an explanation that would make more sense as to why they passed the same bridge twice.
Yes, maybe so.
But the thing that makes most sense to me is that they hallucinated passing it the first time.
Like, which one was the hallucination? Why everything was on the
different side. Yeah, they would all have had to have been hallucinating, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would have to have been the first one, right?
Had to have been the first one.
The second one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. All right, something else I wanted to mention was young Griff froze when it came to battle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was that's why I said he's half a knight.
So convinced earlier that he would be fine and he could take anyone, and when it came down to it, he did not.
Yep.
And Tyrion ended up saving him.
I guess that's the difference between a half a knight and a whole knight.
So I was thinking it could be foreshadowing. What kind of leader is he going to be? Will he be indecisive?
Oh.
Will he be afraid of battle?
Yeah, it could be. Martin loves to throw in foreshadowing like that.
Yep. Because he made a point of having young Griff boast, and then he made a point of young Griff doing nothing. Right.
And even before he argued about being sent back to the cabin with Lemore, he made a comment about the stone men, we'll show them, if they mess with us, we'll show them what we're made of. And I think it was Lamora Ysilla said, don't boast like that.
Yeah.
They don't like it.
Yeah.
So that's a good thought. Whether that's going to be a foreshadowing, we'll have to keep an eye on it.
We will, if we ever get to that point.
Yes. But Tyrion goes for a swim.
He does.
He's pulled in. The stone man gets knocked overboard, and Tyrion goes in with him because the stone man grabs him, and he can't get free. The stone man's got a grip on him and dragging him deeper and deeper.
That must have been terrifying.
Oh, yes. So terrifying.
All right, I saw a tinfoil theory regarding Tyrion's drowning. Do you want to talk about that? It's
Yes.
Yeah. So, again, everyone, tinfoil. So, doesn't mean I necessarily buy into it. I just like to throw these things out there. Some people were thinking that this was a rebirth for Tyrion. And that because he fell in the water, that he could be a drowned man.
Oh.
In the eyes of the Iron Islanders, if he makes it out.
I had not thought of, I did. I the rebirth thing. I was like, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, maybe if he is saved, maybe this would be a rebirth like Dany in Drogo's pyre. A new type of Tyrion is born. I did not see the drowned man of the Iron Islands.
What is dead may never die? If you're resuscitated, right. Does that make you a drowned man?
Yeah. He would be, technically, if he has to be resuscitated.
And then who is Patchface prophesizing about?
Oh, Patchface. Yeah. Huh, yeah, his prophecies always,
something about drowning, huh?
Yeah, his gibberish always involves drowning. Whether you think they're prophecies or not.
Yeah.
It's always about being under the water.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So... if Tyrion makes it out, those are all interesting things to talk about.
Things to consider. All right. Well, that was good stuff. Let's now turn our attention to some spoilers. Simon usually does this part, so I will do my best to put us into this segment. But if you're interested in getting these spoilers, consider joining us at the higher tier Buy Me a Coffee sustainer levels, where you will get such spoilers. All right. Well, those were excellent spoilers. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Now how about we go from the future to the past, as Simon says sometimes, and let's talk about background. Well, so Tyrion mocks Griff for his nickname, which we've also pointed out, being a bit too obvious to hide his true identity, saying that if, as I mentioned, Varys wasn't part of the plan, he'd have sniffed out the truth quickly. Tyrion also adds, a lord who's no lord, a knight who's no knight, saying it doesn't make it true. And then he calls Griff John Connington, Prince Rhaegar's dear friend, once Lord of Griffin's Roost, and one-time Hand of the King. So, we've actually talked about John Connington before, especially when Arya was in the town of Stony Sept. The reason the nickname Griff is such a poor disguise is because John was the Lord of Griffin's Roost, the seat of House Connington in the Stormlands. Their sigil, on top of it being called Griffin's Roost, their sigil is two griffins facing off in red and white. So, yeah, just a really bad idea all the way around. As I mentioned, Tyrion calls Griff Prince Rhaegar's dear friend, and they'd known each other for a long time. The pair were squires together in King's Landing. But when Rhaegar was knighted, Jon became Rhaegar's squire. Some considered young Jon to be arrogant and headstrong, but much like the Griff we know today, Jon was never much for humor or goofing off, and therefore he did not care much for his liege lord of the Stormlands, Robert Baratheon.
Bobby B.
Speaking of Robert, that brings me to Tyrion's comment that Griff is a former Hand of the King. He was one of Mad King Aerys' last hands. After Owen Merryweather was unable to squash Robert's rebellion in its infancy, Aerys exiled him and replaced him with someone younger and with more gusto. And I mentioned Stony Sept a few minutes ago because that was the key moment in Jon's stint as Hand of the King. Jon tracked Robert to the town and searched high and low for him. However, he was unable to find Robert before Ned and Jon Arryn's forces arrived. The fighting was fierce, but in the end, Robert nearly killed Jon in single combat, and Jon's forces eventually fled in defeat. And like Owen before him, Jon was exiled by the king. Rumors spread that he drank himself to death in Essos in shame and despair over his failures as Hand of the King.
You know, as proud as Griff seems, that's probably hard for him to live with. That part right there.
Especially with the knowledge that he was a bit of a hothead, it seemed. A bit arrogant and full of himself. He gets this Hand of the King role. He's probably a bit too young for it, but he thinks, I'm going to prove myself, and goes out and fails.
All right, that was good background.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, comparison with the television show. None of this happened. Tyrion's journey was dropped, as was Aegon surviving the sack of King's Landing. He was not mentioned at all ever in the TV show.
Nope.
So, kind of interesting little tidbit right there. You have to wonder why. Tyrion and Varys make it all the way to Volantis by road, and this has something that is yet to happen in the books. And that is only after that incident that Tyrion is attacked by the Stonemen.
Okay.
All right, Pedantry Corner, you said you don't have anything?
No, I've got nothing. Okay. Although you mentioned you almost had something.
Well, I think it's a character decision of how Griff's mind works, we can't really call it pedantry. I just want to know who is in charge of his undercover package, because I think they failed miserably.
Right. They need a new job. They need a book of names. Pick anything.
That
Any
form
name.
that part of the form was blank, and Griff was like, Griff. Yep.
Griff.
Got it. Nailed it.
Yeah. No one will ever figure out who I am
figure
now.
that out.
Well, in news and notes, just a reminder, like we mentioned last week, our Ghosts of Harrenhal merchandise site is open for the moment to celebrate the kickoff to summer or winter if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Head to our website, ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com, and get your Ghosts of Harrenhal gear while you can. I don't know exactly how long we'll keep it open, but it's open right now.
If you're in the Southern Hemisphere and you're cold, I recommend the hoodie, because that thing is so soft. And I love that
thing. Good to
thing.
know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a great hoodie.
I love it. Yeah, I don't have the hoodie. I have a sweatshirt. You need to get it. I do need to get it. Maybe I'll get it now.
While your site is open.
Yeah, that's right. We have a review. Would you like to read the review?
I will. It's from Aussie Scott J, Apple Podcasts Australia. So
I'm still running through these ones that I found that I'd been missing for. As you can see, the date on here.
Oh yeah, 1/3/24. So January of last year. Sorry, Aussie Scott J. Thanks for leaving a review, and sorry it's taken so long to get to it. But he gave us 5 stars, and he says, has everything you never knew you needed in a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. Entertaining in every way, which is true. True story.
Well, thank you very much, Aussie Scott J. I greatly appreciate that. I know Simon would greatly appreciate that. So, and I, again, yes, like Jenny said, I apologize that it's taking me over a year to discover that there were several reviews in Australia. I found a way to find reviews from other countries other than just changing the URL, which is what I had been doing.
Oh, okay.
But they list it by like global region. So you would think Australia would be like first on my list, but it's actually not. It's down further.
Okay.
Because they do it by global region. Anyway, it's a poor excuse. And I feel bad, but I'm getting to them now.
Yes. Thank you for leaving a good review. All right. So do you want to wrap this thing up?
Yes, let's do that.
Really? I thought it was a short chapter. And aside from large revelations that have big repercussions, really not a lot happened, you know?
Right.
I mean, we found plenty to talk about, but honestly, there wasn't a lot of action in it.
Yeah, I mean, we had the three big revelations. Tyrion outs young Griff as Prince, now King, possibly? Aegon Targaryen, son of Prince Rhaegar? I mean, that's the big one. That one is the one with the huge ramifications to our story.
Yes.
Less impactful, but still useful for us to know as readers, is that Griff is none other than Jon Connington, who was presumed and thought to have died. So, less impactful to the story, but still a major revelation to us, and it could have impact in the story
I just thought it was pretty cool to find such a hardcore Targaryen loyalist.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, they, that they're right up there with the Darys.
Yeah.
As far as loyalty to the Targaryens. And, of course, Tyrion outs himself as Tyrion Lannister. We, of course, already knew that. But it was probably a bit of a weight off his shoulders to no longer have to pretend to be some common-born Westerman, that he can say, no, I am Tyrion Lannister, the son of Tywin Lannister, which, if you're revealing this to Aegon Targaryen, if he knows anything about what was said to have happened to him, that's dangerous to say, I am the son of the man who ordered that.
Yes.
But adding the fact that I killed him by my own hand might help smooth things over a little bit, that he killed Tywin, I mean.
All right, Tyrion seemingly drowns at the end. Do you think he makes it? We'll have to tune in.
Yes. I mean, he's being dragged down, so someone's going to have to jump in and save him. I can't.
Yeah, I don't imagine he can swim very well anyway.
Yeah, he did last chapter swim a bit. Remember when Duck threw him in?
Oh, that's right.
But I don't know.
Swim a bit.
There's a difference between swimming a bit on the top of the water
and being dragged down into the water. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I sure hope he survives. This would not be a great way to lose one of our most cherished characters.
It would not be. It'd be a sad ending for Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah, but Martin is not afraid to just...
He's not afraid to bump people off in the middle of the story, is he?
Right. And, does the revelation about young Griff, I mean, this could have huge impact. Like we mentioned, how's Dany going to react to this? I could see a mixed emotions here. Yay, I have family alive. My older brother's son is living. Oh, wait, he's competition for the Iron Throne, and he has a better claim than I do.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we'll have to, hopefully someday we'll find out how she takes it.
Yes, hopefully. Or maybe it'll everything in Meereen will get wrapped up and she'll be in Volantis if they ever get there down the Rhoyne.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see, I guess. Speaking of Volantis.
Yes, the Kingfisher brought us news of war from Volantis, so that's not good for Dany.
Definitely not good news for Dany. She has enough enemies already. I mean, at this point, though, I think Simon made this comment recently. I mean, what's one more,
Exactly.
Just keep adding them to the list. I mean, I think it was over Zara Zoandaxis and Karth joining the enemies list. And he said, what's one more, Karth?
She's
what's
got
one
dragons,
more, Volantis?
It may equal each other out. What's one more city?
That's right. And hey, maybe the silver lining will be that Aegon will be able to ride one of those two dragons, and that could be good or bad for her, though. Right now, she's the only one that can control the dragons. All right. Well, next up we have Davos, another character in a bit of a tough spot. We'll see how that goes for him.
This is a tough book for a lot of people. I mean, I know that this entire story is pretty much a tough spot for a lot of people, but...
Well, true. Yes. Yeah. It's there's not the list of characters that things are really going great for.
It's very slim.
Is very small. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone.
Nope. At this point, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, at this moment, there are 4 ways that you can help us out. You can leave us a positive review and a 5-star rating, and we will read it out. I will try to do it as quickly as possible. I hope not to repeat the situation with the Australian reviewers. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostheronhall. There you can become a sustainer at any of the various levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. The upper tiers get you the spoilers. Or you can donate directly to our cause through our website, ghostofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com. We, of course, appreciate all of that. And for the moment, you can stock up on GOH merchandise at our store, ghostofharrenhal.threadless.com.
Buy that hoodie. It's so soft.
I like it. I'm going to do that. You've talked me into it.
Yes, I hope so. All right, if you're looking for more ways to interact with these guys, send them a text. The link is at the top of every show note. So keep in mind, they can't respond.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
But they do enjoy reading your text, so please keep sending them.
Yes, we do. All true.
If you're interested in keeping up on the latest GOH news/developments, check them out on their social media. Follow them at Twitter at @GhostHarrenhal, and they're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
That's all true as well. Jenny, thank you so much for joining me here today. I've had a great time, and we're all pulling for Oldham to beat whatever team it is they're playing. I honestly don't know.
I don't know.
And maybe you.
All I can
maybe
say
you
is
being here.
Go Oldham. I hope I bring good luck.
Yes, go Athletic. Yeah, maybe you being here will be the good luck charm that they need. And I'm sure with all of GOH community pulling for Oldham, they're surely going to win in advance. So, so thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.